anyway, we are here and I am very excited to answer the questions that came in. So if you're watching on the replay and live, just so you know, every week on Friday at this time, we do the bridge calls. Normally I'll do these publicly that they can be shared out there. We'll go live on Instagram and other things so it can feel more like something that can be shared with others. This week, because I'm still kind of recovering, we're going to keep it, I'm just going to answer your questions. We're going to keep it pretty short. And this one won't be public. It'll just be for the Bridge family. So I'm going to jump right into all of the questions that came in that were submitted through the question form as of like midnight last night. That's kind of when we cut it off. So anytime you have a question that, is you just want to hear from me instead of like through the help desk from the team or in the group. If you want to hear a question answered specifically from me, that question form is going to be the best place to put those. And then that way, every Friday, I'll answer all of the questions. So I am going to go back and answer any of the ones. There were only a couple from the last week anyway, but the ones that I missed, I will start with those. And then we'll get into the ones that you submitted from this week. And as mentioned everywhere, the questions are always, even though you put your name and email address, I will answer them anonymously. So your information is protected. If you put your child's name in there by accident, I will not say your child's name. It will always be anonymously answered because we will do these publicly in the future. But then that way you put your name so that we can, if we need to look up something specific, or if it's a very personal question, I won't answer it. We'll reach out to you privately. Or if we want to reach out with more information, we have your information. Okay. Anyway, haven't talked this much in a while. All right. So first question was from last week. Why can't I get it to open? Hold on. There we go. Okay. Our family is in Washington State, and we have filed the declaration of intent to homeschool our 9-year-old for the past 2 school years. I've since learned that we should have also been completing an annual assessment for our records. I found a resource that offers a non-test assessment option that can get us caught up if needed. My question is, since our son is now enrolled in Bridge Academy, is this even necessary or required for us to still have these past assessments completed in our records, even though he is now considered a private school student through Bridge? So this is a really good question, and it speaks to, actually, I answered other similar questions this week through email, so others might have a similar question. Essentially, if I did not accurately complete past evaluations, past records, what happens, going into the future? Like, do I need to worry about that or not? Generally speaking, and with my many years of experience working with school districts and the way they document things, generally speaking, as long as you are current and updated, that's all they really want to see. So if, now for you, it doesn't even matter. For the person that asked this question specifically for you, your child is no longer on paper a homeschooler anyway. They're a private school student with Bridge. So none of those records, like, there isn't really a reason that anyone will ever go back and look at those. The only time something like that is going to happen, where someone official is going to want to go back and see records, is for 2 reasons. Number one is if they're high school students. Obviously, at that point, they want to be able to track, because 9th grade is when things matter, right? We need to see high school transcripts. If they want to go to college, if they want to do these other things, if they want to transfer to another program, then documentation does matter. If we're talking 7, 8 years old, the only other reason that someone might be looking is if there's some kind of like legal battle, custody case, something like that, where they want proof of back documentation. So if that is something that you are worried about happening in your particular situation, maybe you want to have those evaluations done, in which case we can do them for you. Just send us a message privately, and we can easily draft up those evaluations. We have the certification, the staff certification to do that. But really, especially at that age, I wouldn't worry about it. But that's a really great question. So thank you for asking that one. Whew. Okay. Doing the best I can here, folks. Okay, next question. I'm wanting to know more about how to work with multiple age groups. Any tips on organizing around working with a second and a fourth grader with a toddler around? So, if you did not already go through the routines workshop that we just did, that is where I would start, because when we like what's happening even in this question is you're starting with the learning, like that's where your mind is starting in terms of organization and scheduling and planning. Everything is sort of starting with how do I do the learning first? And that's the piece that kind of what we want is that that piece falls naturally into place, because we've already structured everything else around like a natural routine of everyone's needs. And now we are letting that learning fall naturally into place, or we're finding out the times of day that that's really working. And then you can see how much time you really have, right? So once you've identified, oh, we have these like natural pockets of time, like right here before lunch, there's like 2 hours where they're kind of seeking my attention anyway, or they're asking a lot of questions, or they're getting along really well. That would be a great time slot to like set in, some structured learning activities, or like right before bed, everybody's kind of antsy, and having an activity then would be a really great thing. So when you can find those pockets of time that you have, or those natural times where they, are turned on, they're engaged, they have a lot of questions, they're ready to do something, then you know what you're working with, right? So if you have, let's say the toddler has one time and the older kids have another time where they're really engaged, then you know that you can easily split up your attention. Oh, okay, well, the older two are going to be independent when the toddler needs the most attention. That way they feel like they're getting their bucket filled, for lack of a better analogy. They're getting all the attention they need. Then the toddler can go be independent. And then another time of the day, I've got the other two kids. So, and that is assuming that the second and fourth grader want to do things together. They might not. So any advice that I give you that's very general might not work for your family, right? So definitely start with routines. Now, that workshop is ready to be placed into the portal. And as soon as I am done with this call, I'm going to drive back home, and that's what I'm going to be doing, is putting that into the portal for you. So, because I wanted to do it with this replay at the same time. So all of those will be in the portal. So if you don't see that yet, if you're watching this live and you don't see it yet, it will be there soon. So start with routines. And then my general advice there would be to do as much together as you can. So if you have a second and a fourth grader, let's operate under the assumption that they're okay to do some activities together, or that they thrive working together. If so, even in certain parts of the day, right? If so, plan activities that they can do together. So maybe pulling something from the third grade curriculum, and that they could adjust up and down the activity expectations, or bounce back and forth between some second grades and fourth grade, just kind of that fluidity, because remember, grade levels are just completely made up, right? What are they interested in? What's getting them excited right now? What do you really want to focus on? What can they do together and enjoy together? And there's no reason the toddler can't be invited either. One of the things that I see very often with families that have a bigger age gap, like mine included, right? I have a 14-year-old, an 11-year-old, and then a 4-year-old. It's easy to think, well, there's no way they could ever do anything together, because like the things a 4-year-old knows and that an 11-year-old knows are so different. I couldn't possibly do things with them together. But really, that 4-year-old just wants to be included. So if you're doing an activity with a second and a fourth grader that's on their level, and then you've got a 2 or a 3-year-old that just wants to be in the mix, and all that, like in the routines workshop, we talked about how like your energy kind of leads everything in the home. So if that is bothering you, like if you're trying to focus and pay attention to what the second and fourth grader are doing, and the toddler is like, I want to do it, and they've got their hands in everything, your energy is going to be all messed up. The bigger kids are going to be frustrated, and then the toddler is going to know that everyone's frustrated with them. So then they're going to be frustrated, and that intensifies the behaviors because they want the attention, right? So that probably sounds familiar. So whatever you're doing, whatever materials the second and fourth grader have, get another set and invite the toddler to be a part of it. They may not understand, they may not do it right. You may need like kid versions of things, or leave a couple things out if it's like need scissors or whatever, right? But when they feel included, there's less like tension, animosity, or like feeling like you're trying to like keep that person separate. So that's one of my favorite tips with littler kids, much littler kids, is just invite them, let them be a part of it, even if they don't understand. It doesn't matter to them. They just want to be involved. Okay. Next question. And by the way, I haven't seen most of these, so bear with me. Could you give some specific examples of how to incorporate core curriculum math skills into everyday activities without a whiteboard and worksheets, please? We do some, but I feel like there are many more ways I could incorporate these skills with my first and third graders. So I have, this doesn't answer your question, but I do have somebody in mind to come in and teach a like unschool math workshop that I think would be really useful. So I'm trying to coordinate that right now as one of our guest spots. So I will save this question for when we're able to have that person come on and answer questions for you around math. But this kind of goes to the same way I would answer this question about any subject. Like math is one that we get very freaked out about because we all have trauma around math. Unless we became mathematicians or math teachers, we all have like trauma that we carry around it. When really math is one of the most universal languages that exists. Like math is literally everywhere. Everything that you do during the day in some way has something to do with the laws and principles of mathematics. We just have been like trained to think that math only happens on like worksheets and workbooks and like solving complicated problems. And that's simply not true. So part of that is just like letting go of that fear around it, because if you are living and talking about things and doing things, they are doing math. Another way is to just think about how you're using it in everyday life. And there's nothing wrong with solving a problem on paper, right? We do that. I use my calculator every day. It's one of the apps that stays open the most on my computer and my phone. So show them that you're doing that, right? It's all about modeling and inviting them to be a part of those things with you, and showing them how you're using it in real life. If you're baking, if you're calculating, if you're budgeting. Just yesterday, my oldest and his best friend, they're doing like learning activities together this year. We did an activity where we talked about survival things. Like I made up an activity where if they're out, they have to go colonize a new planet or something, and they have all of these resources that they can take. And they had to narrow it down together to like the top 30 things they would take with them. And so it was a good conversation around like, what do we need to survive? Like, how will we eat? How will we drink water? How will we protect ourselves? And then I made them narrow it down again to 16. And that was more conversations about, all right, what things can we cut out? What can something else do that, we don't need these 2 things that one could do. And then they had to cut it down to 8, and then they had to cut it down to 4. So it went from like 50 options that they had down to 4 options. And at the end, we talked about how that's opportunity cost, which directly relates to financial literacy and budgeting. How, yeah, of course, it would be nice if you could take literally everything from your home to this new planet. We all have things that we want, but when it boils down, what's the opportunity cost? Do we have the resources? Do we have the money? Do we have the storage space? Do we have the knowledge of how to use them? Do we have, the potential to maximize our use of things? So we were able to talk about how that is directly related to finances and budgeting. And they're going to do some work on like meal planning for their family and things like that. So that's a good example of like how anything can turn into the skills of math. So it's really more than anything, it's mindset. And I know that doesn't like specifically answer your question, but really just think about how you use a skill and in your real life as a functioning adult in society. How do you use the skill that you want them to learn? And then use that to show them. And if that involves working something out on paper, great, show them how to do that. And, worksheets and solving something on paper are not criminal, right? We don't have to just like be scared of these things. We just don't want to rely on them to teach, because filling out a worksheet is the lowest form of knowledge. Like that is the lowest level of knowledge acquisition, filling out a worksheet. So we want to be thinking less about just eliminating and hiding from those things, and thinking instead about what are the higher levels of knowledge. Being able to teach something to someone else, by the way, is the highest form of knowledge. When you can teach a concept to another person, that's like the pinnacle. So everything in between that, right? Like filling out a worksheet, teaching the concept to another person, what's happening in between those two, if it's on like a scale or a pyramid, whatever. Okay. Next question. Is there more to the Bridge to Bridge Schooling Journal? I printed the guide without reading it, thinking it was journal prompts. But as I started reading, it seems like a guide through a workshop or something. Are there videos? Am I misunderstanding? So it's not, there are not videos. It is meant to be, and now I'm curious, I might have to look, that might have uploaded improperly. So I did not get my notebook out. Pause, please. I'm going to make a note to check on that while I'm working in the portal anyway later. Of course, my pen is not going to work. Nope, that one doesn't work. Next. Oh my goodness. No working writing utensils in here. There we go. Okay, I wrote that down. So, because that doesn't sound right. There should be like journal prompts and things, but Bridge to Bridge Schooling is not, it's not videos. It is meant to be a like 30-day guide that you go through one thing a day. So it's like a reflection prompt. So like the start of it is each day, the start is to get you to think about a certain concept, like how you're already doing something or what you believe about something, just like on the surface. And then it's like some learning, a chunk of it, like, to help you process. And then at the end is a reflection piece, which is, things that you looked for during the day, or that journal piece of like, what are you going to think about further? How are you going to change things? So it's meant to kind of guide you through these stages of mindset development and deschooling for a 30-day journey. So if that sounds like what you got, then yes, that's it. But it sort of sounds like there's some pages missing or something. So I will check on that. Next question. I hope you're feeling better. Yes, thank you. Are we still able to upload learning logs even though they're there 24/25? So that was the biggest thing that, and actually there's a couple questions about the learning logs. So I'll just answer those like collectively right now. So a few questions came in about the learning logs. The first one was, why aren't the 25/26 ones up yet? And that is fully on me, and that will be getting done as well today. So those will be up, the 24/25. I mostly have procrastinated on that because I need to find a way to archive the 24/25 ones in a way that don't get lost. I'm hoping that they don't disappear for parents, but I also don't want your like portfolio in there to just be flooded with things. Like, it'd be nice if they were archived somewhere that you could ask for them or that we still had them. Definitely not going to delete them, but if we can just archive them somewhere where they're accessible but not visible, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out before I open the new ones. But one way or another, we'll get the new ones out there today. The old ones might just stay there for a little while we figure out what to do with those. So lots of questions were about that. The other questions were, how often are we expected to fill them out? And can we do more? So inside the handbook, it tells you that, but basically for elementary, we need to see 4 a year. Middle, which is 5th through 8th grade, we want to see 6 per year, and high school 8 per year. Now, a few asterisks around that one. Yes, they're open all the time for a reason. You can fill them out. You can fill out 100 if you want, 180. You can do one every day. You can do one once a week. You can do as many as you want. So they are open for that reason, so that you are able to find the rhythm that works for your family. If you're someone that's like really kind of forgetful and you're just sort of going with the flow and you don't want to have to remember what was happening for a month, or if you're already jotting things down on paper and then transferring it over, that seems, superfluous. So, in that case, do one a week, like whatever works for your family. We just need to see that number in a year. I would say most families probably do one a month, but again, it's completely up to you. There's no rules around it other than the minimums. And if you, some other asterisks then, we do have a few families where, because of neurodiversities or whatever reason, filling out the learning logs at all is beyond what is, askable. which is fine. So in that case, we can give you an exemption for those in most grades. Once we get to high school, we kind of have to have some discussions around what that'll look like. But for the elementary and middle, if you really just need the exemption, there's ways to work around that. So you can just message us and we'll work it out individually with you. And then the last one is, it does not matter. So when you see, so 24-25 right now is just, there's one form for elementary and middle and one form for high school. 25-26 is going to be a little bit different, where there will be 3 different types of learning logs. One is like a quick drop. So if you just have like, they completed an online class somewhere and you want to upload that transcript and you don't want to fill out an entire form to go with it, you can just drop that right in. If your child did a cool project, you want to share some photos, you want to share a video, like you just want to drop something in there really fast, that will be there, which should be really fun. And then there's going to be, and those don't count towards the minimums because that's, different. That's just a file drop. But then there's going to be 2 different forms. One is parent form and one is the student form. And those are the ones that count towards the minimums. And it's exactly what it is. It's like, that's exactly what it says that it is, right? The parents fill out a form. The students fill out a form. There'll probably be 2 different versions of the student form. One that's more for like younger kids and one that's for high schoolers. But that, and those can be any combination. It can be, 8 student forms, 8 parent forms, 4 and 4, 6 and 2. That doesn't matter. They just need to have that many minimum submissions for the grade level. But that way we get a little bit of a mixture of how questions are being answered, how people are sharing information. In an ideal world, the parents and the students are taking time, individually to share that information so that we can see it from both perspectives. That's nice for our team to put transcripts together. It's also really nice for your personal, reflective process to kind of get an idea of seeing, what's my child sharing versus what am I sharing? How did we see this week or this month differently? So it's kind of nice all around. So that's a little bit of a different thing we're trying out this year with the learning logs, and we'll see how they get utilized and, make changes in the future. So that, I'll skip over any other learning log questions that come in. That'll be that. Okay, next question is kind of a long one here. Question from a first-time homeschooling mom to a second grader. It looks like there are 9 subject areas and 9 months of schooling. Is it best to focus on one subject area per month? Jumping around feels overwhelming, but I don't want my child to get bored working on the same subject every day. I think, I'm sorry, I'm just reading to make sure this isn't personal information. All right, so I think you might be confusing this one a little bit with the 9 themes. So if you're talking about the curriculum specifically, it's not divided up by subject area. It is divided up by theme. So in that case, then yes, ideally each theme of the curriculum is designed to last about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on many factors, right? How much time you spend per day, how long, your child stays interested in the concept. Some of the, upper grades, like 3rd and 4th, maybe 2nd, have like final projects that could last really long, depending on how interested your child is. So again, it's kind of a broad range of like how long you spend there. You could easily just drop the theme and go to another. Generally speaking, they're meant to last about 4 to 6 weeks. So yes, that then equivocates to 9 themes, 9 school year months, 9 months of school. Anyway, so yes, I think there might just be some confusion there. And again, that this question was from last week, so maybe you figured that out by now. And if so, great. If sorry that it took me a while to answer. If you have more questions, then just reach out. But that inside each theme, and I'm thinking you mentioned second grade, so you're specifically the second grade curriculum. So it's all designed around literacy. Every theme is a different book genre, but within those themes, then you'll see every subject area inside. So there will be math and social studies and art and history and all of that woven in. So I think you might have just been looking at it, maybe on the surface first and not seeing what was down inside. Certainly they shouldn't be getting bored. That's probably my favorite year is second grade. There's a couple questions in this one. which for the future, if you're submitting a question, putting one, it's okay to submit multiple submissions. It's easier for us to have one question at a time, but it's okay. We're learning together. Started reading Pie in the Sky this week, which is the sci-fi book in the second grade curriculum. I like the book, but it seems a little advanced for my 7-year-old. The language goes over her head. Any suggestions for working through the comprehension, or is that something that comes naturally through the years? Yeah, so you kind of answered your own question there. Like, it's okay for kids to have to be exposed to language that they don't understand. That's how they learn what the language is, right? So take your time and answer. And it's going to depend on your child. So, and that's kind of the nature of science fiction and fantasy anyway. Like, I'm 40, and when I read fantasy novels, there's still like made up words or words that I have to go look up, right? Because I read like 1,000-page fantasy novels. And I still regularly come upon a word I've never heard before. So I have to look that up, but that doesn't prevent me from reading it and enjoying it. So if it's not bothering your child, just keep going. It's like reading Shakespeare almost. Like, there's still, which Shakespeare is included in second grade too. It's almost like they'll get the gist of the story, right? And even like, again, with sci-fi, with fantasy, sometimes it takes a while to get into the like world building of the story. So all of this is part of that. It's all part of that experience of reading science fiction. So it might just be the nature of that's the first book you picked. So it might be a little confusing. I would say just stick with it. Just keep reading. It's a really, really great story. And the activities are really fun with that one. But if it feels like a lot and you're not enjoying it and she's not enjoying it, stop. Pie in the Sky is a great one to do in March because of Pie Day. But, it's keep going. Answer the questions when they come up. Don't underestimate a child's ability to still comprehend a story, even if the vocabulary is a little deep or the content is deep. How much time should we be dedicating to schooling each day? We're averaging about an hour a day. Is there a right or wrong answer to this? Nope. Again, watch the routines workshop. Let that guide you first. And if you feel like you super need the structure of dedicated time every day, make it, you want to think about a child's average attention span is age plus 5 minutes. So if your child is 7, their average attention span at a time is going to be about, 13 minutes, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 minutes. See, math is everywhere. So you can maybe even average 15 if you've got a kid that pays really good attention. So 15 minutes max at a time per activity, unless, by the way, there is an unless with that rule, unless they're really interested. So you can get longer if they're super interested. If it's like completely adult driven and they could care less, you're going to be lucky to get a whole 15 minutes out of a 7-year-old. Okay. So you have to kind of keep that in mind too. Is this something they're really interested in? Are they enjoying it? Maybe we want to break it up. Maybe we do 20 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 30 minutes there, break it up throughout the day. Again, routines workshop is going to help you with that. And then there was a learning log question in there. How often do we do it? Again, do what's working for you there. I'm trying to apply for the homeschooling scholarship in Florida, but since we are registered as a private school, is PEP scholarship the one we should be applying for? Yes, correct, because they'll pay for private school tuition, I believe. Yes. Whichever one, there's one. So I wish I'm on the spot answering this question. Actually, please, if this was your question, message me privately or message the help desk, and we have to look that up, because there's one scholarship that is for private schools, but they have since changed the it's specifically for students that are going to attend a private school, but there is a caveat there that it must be a brick and mortar private school. So they'll give you the money for tuition or tuition assistance, but the school cannot be virtual. They have to attend in person every day, which is obviously not what you want. And then there's the other two, that one is for students. So Florida has 3 education scholarship situations going on. It's very confusing, and I forget the little like acronyms. The one is for private schools specifically, but it must be brick and mortar. You do not want that one unless you want to send them to a private school. Number 2 is there's one for students with disabilities, or learning disabilities or physical disabilities, and that one we accept that, but you have to register. You still have to register as a homeschooler, and then you can use the funds to pay for Bridge Academy on the side. We just will help you with the paperwork. That one's a little more rare though. Not a lot of people use that one, and I don't think there's much money in the state for it, so they don't accept a lot of applications. And then the primary one which is either the US, FESUS, or the PEP. I forget. I get those mixed up. And that one is, you can use for private, it's like for homeschoolers, but you can use it for private virtual academies as well. So I wish that they would streamline that, but message me privately and we'll help you figure it out. I think it's too late to apply this year anyway, though. Okay, next question. I have an 8th grader and I'm looking forward to help with the transcripts come high school time. My question is, can projects and experiences from a previous year go towards high school transcripts? For example, if my daughter takes part in a major project through scouting in 8th grade, can this be put towards a high school requirement for 9th grade, even if she isn't technically in high school yet? For example, she will be doing an environmental science project that will require many hours of her time, interviews, research, final project, etc. Could that be used as a 9th grade science credit? Yes. We have done that before. We can absolutely do that. We usually reserve that for if there is concern that that level of work won't be done again, or if it would interfere, like doing that level of work would interfere with other projects that the child's more interested in, if that makes sense. So it definitely can be done. So just, put it aside, make sure you document that in the transcript, and maybe let us know individually, through the help desk that you'd like to apply that as an environmental science, like with a lab credit. And we can certainly do that. We're very flexible there, but we don't want to take away the potential of them earning that credit another way, if that makes sense. So yes, it is doable is the short answer to that. Okay, sorry guys. That was my next door office partner, or it's a shared office building, so she was next door and had one of her clients brought their child with them, and the child was being very loud, so she wanted to apologize for children, and I was like, we don't need to do that here. We don't have to apologize for kids. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Anyway, okay, not sure. Next question. I'm wondering if I can get confirmation of whether Bridge Academy has Ontario residents who have received their high school diploma and successfully moved on to post-secondary education. I ask because we have multiple friends who have completed different homeschooling options where their diplomas were not accepted by local post-secondary institutions. So actually just answered this question with somebody yesterday, and I don't know if this is the same person or not, but so the way that works, yes, we have several students in Canada that have graduated from our program and have gone on to college. So that is not an issue with our program. Here's the way that it works. So if you are in Canada, the only thing that's different with Canadian high schools and American high schools is the credit hours are a little bit different. So we require a minimum of 24 credit hours, which aligns with what the US, schools require. I'm aware that in Canada, it's like 30, I think is the minimum. So we just increase, like the classes, it's the same amount of classes that they have to have. It's just that the credits are a different amount, if that makes sense. So we make sure that the transcripts have an equivalent of credits to graduate, that the transcript counts. So that if they apply, and that is probably the issue that you might be seeing or your friends might be seeing, where they are getting a US-based transcript that has US credit equivalence that does not equate to what they're looking for when they go to apply to college in Canada, if that makes sense. So we have remedied that situation by ensuring that they have the equivalent credits and names of credits and credit hours on their transcript. The curriculum that I've written aligns, and our requirements align with Canadian standards as well, which might also be an issue people are having. So even on the transcript, it'll say that the requirements have been met for the US and Canada. So that's like another distinction. The high school diploma that they receive will be a US-based high school diploma because we are not, we do not operate out of Canada. Therefore, we cannot issue a Canadian diploma. But that's not the piece that colleges want to see anyway. They don't ask for the diploma, they ask for the transcript. And the transcript states that they've met the minimum requirements in Canada and that the standards of the US and Canada have been met. So hopefully that, it's all these just these little distinctions, right, that make all the difference. So the short answer there is that yes, we have not had issues there. Okay. Next question. New to official unschooling, what specifically do we upload in the learning logs, like lessons that we did, field trips, tutoring, etc.? Yeah, exactly that, right? It's the purpose of the learning logs, and really the like main reason that we're here for documentation reasons, is that you get to just live and learn and do the things that work for you and share it in a way that makes sense to you. And then we do the hard work of making that official and using academic language. So you share in the learning logs will have, like, prompts to help you kind of like reflect appropriately, like, in a way that is effective, for lack of a better word. So if you just answer those prompts, that's enough. And then you share whatever you want to share. Like, think about, what would you want to remember? Like, if you're doing it every other week, for example, what would you want to remember most from your experiences with your child in those last 2 weeks? Maybe that's photos, maybe that's videos. Maybe it's narrative about what you did. Maybe there is some like lessons or online classes they took that you want to document as well. But for the most part, it's just like, what do I want to remember about this time? And that's what I'm going to put in here. And then that's our job on the other end, to take that almost like stream of consciousness and turn it into the academic language. It's like a translation. It's like we're taking, Homer's Iliad and making it more palatable to to the masses. This question is a personal question that I cannot answer here, so I'm going to make a note to reach out to that person individually. Okay, next question. Well, this is a good question. My daughter's starting 5th grade, and I've noticed in the student handbook that starting in 5th grade, Bridge Academy begins using letter grades instead of pass and fail. How do you evaluate or determine what grade a student gets? That's a really good question. So our policy is that students don't fail, their teachers do in general, right? So we are never going to fail a student, because you can't fail at learning. So here's how that works. In elementary school, it's pass fail. And again, we're not going to fail a child. So K through 4th is just going to say passing. Once they get to 5th grade, we do switch for the transcript purposes to letter grades. And that stays true through high school. Here's how that works. Inside the learning logs this year specifically, we've kind of had it in the past that it was just unspoken, but it will be there specifically this year. The policy across the board is to give an A as long as content was shared about that subject area. So as long as you share with us that they worked on something in math, they get an A in math. They worked on stuff in English, they get an A in English. The only ways that those grade levels would be different are, number one, if they're transferring mid-year from another program, whatever was on that program, that's, we have to be honest about that, will transfer to the program, will transfer to their transcripts. So an example of that would be, your child is in 9th grade in public school, and they stay in the public school till December. And then after December, you transfer them to Bridge Academy, and we request the transcript from that past school. If they got straight C's until December, that is what will be on their transcript with us. Then our grades would apply. So the final grade would be an average of that. That's one reason the grades would be different. The second reason is if it's parent request. So if you are doing, more traditional type homeschooling where you're grading work at home, you're assigning grades to things, and there's a space in the learning log, it'll be more obvious this year. You can place that there, and we will honor what that is. So if, you put in that you believe your child deserved or, earned a B in math, that's what will be on the transcript. And then the third reason that would be different is if your child is taking, this a little bit more at the high school level, but it could be in middle school too. If your child is taking any kind of online course that is credited, or like an in-person, drop off, like our local college does, like drop off science days for homeschoolers that they can earn for, for credit on their transcripts, and they get like a document that gives them a grade for their work. If any of that is uploaded into the portal, those grades we will honor on our transcripts. So it's a little bit of like a hodgepodge of how that's done. For the most part, we want to see children, succeed. We want them to have the best grades that they can. We will ask honestly in the student learning log too, what do you feel on a grading scale you would give yourself for this? And so all of that is kind of taken into account. And then we can have conversations around what that transcript looks like at the end of the year if you as the parent have an issue with it. But that's kind of our policy across the board. That's a good question. Actually, I need to write down. I want to be a little more clear about that in the handbook this year. Okay. That was learning log question. Could you describe the different ways teenagers at Bridge Academy have learned Algebra 1? Okay, so for this question, I would direct you mostly to the handbook, the section about high school, where there's like 3 categories of ways that we sort of help kids plan, or how you can help your students plan their courses for high school, for example. So if I remember correctly, the way that, I don't remember the exact wording of it, but basically it's like the first track is for every subject level. So we'll say math. The first track is like math intensive. Okay. Like, I'm really good at math. I really like math. I have a natural talent. I want to be rigorous in this course of study. I have intentions to go to like a biochem something in college. So the first track is in this subject area, and we'll use math again. I'm going to be, I need the math. And then we list off the classes that would be good credits for that. And that's going to be Algebra 1, Algebra 2, calculus, trigonometry, whatever your advanced maths are. And then how those are taken, there's no shortage of ways to find math out there. You could work with a tutor one-on-one individually. You could purchase any math curriculum that's like canned curriculum. There's like 100 of them out there. Take an online class. There's 100 of online classes. You teach it to them. There's 1,000 ways to find math programs to meet those courses of study. And then the middle of the road track is like, I just kind of want to check it off. I don't love this subject. I don't, have a desire to have a career in this subject, but I want sort of like the general track. And in that one, you might see like algebra, like just Algebra 1, basic geometry, financial literacy, business math, etc. And then there's the track that's more like full unschooling, or just like super not interested in this subject at all, wanting only to apply the subject in real life. This is also more for like the artist track, someone who's already going to start their own business, like only needs, to learn in a way that applies to their life directly. And in that, you're going to see of like entrepreneurship, consumer math, business math, more financial literacy classes, investments in stocks, and, more applicable math knowledge. And then that's broken down for every subject area. So I would direct you more to the handbook for that. All right, next question. How many have graduated in total from Bridge Academy since the founding of the school, and how many of those have been in the US? So I know, only because it's funny, I have not seen this question yet, but I actually looked at this for another reason. I had to do some paperwork earlier today. So I know for sure we have 40 seniors this year, which is super exciting. I know for sure we had 27 seniors graduate last year. I forget the numbers going back before that, but obviously it's less. I think the year before that in like 23, 24, I think we had maybe like 10 or 12 seniors. And then in our first year before that, I think we had like 3 or 4, obviously, that were just like seniors that were transferring and finishing just with us for that, our first year. So what does that equal? Like 80, 40, 70, like 80 we've had graduate-ish so far. And I would guess maybe 10 of them have been outside of the United States. I'm trying to remember like specific. I would guess 10 outside of the US. So that's an answer to that question. Good question. Okay, a couple more and then we'll be done. My son is starting 5th grade this year, but having all of this information now, can I go over the lower grade levels with my son and submit grades for his transcripts for those grades? Maybe reach out to me individually. I'm a little unsure of the question here. I see. If you're asking if you can use the content, absolutely. That's the reason that we give you access to all of the grade levels, is to be able to go and move around. Just because your child is technically in 5th grade on a calendar does not mean that the 4th grade concepts won't interest them, that the 3rd grade concepts won't interest them, that the 2nd grade concepts won't be useful. And the beauty of this curriculum is how it's developed and how it's designed to be very holistic in nature. So you might look through it and find like, wow, there's things that other curriculums that we did never touched. And I want my child to have these concepts. And none of, like, since it's not worksheets, they're not going to see like 2nd grade at the top and feel bad or something, right? So you absolutely can go back and explore all of the other content. Honestly, I think the 2nd grade curriculum is fun for literally everybody to do. Like, again, I'm just hyping that one up right now. Like, the book choices in that one are superb. They're so fun to read. The activities are really fun. So, we give you access to everything so that you can explore everything no matter how old your child is. Now, if you're asking if you can go back and do that information and give us like grades for it so that we can create back transcripts, that's going to be on an individual basis. Generally, no. We have to kind of stick with the fact that your child is enrolled this year, so that's when the transcript starts. The only times we make exceptions for that are like if they're in high school and they need, like if you were full unschooling and have no documentation, and then you enroll with us in like 11th grade and they need something, we can make it look like a transfer, like help you put something together from your own homeschooling program and then transfer the credits. But to backdate transcripts from our program, we like really can't do that. But I will say in 5th grade, it doesn't really matter. Like, you can just write down that he was homeschooled. I mean, no one's going back and asking for those records. Even if you would transfer him to a public school tomorrow, they would just put him in the grade level with peers no matter what. So it really isn't relevant at that age. But feel free to reach out if I'm interpreting your question incorrectly. Learning log question. Okay, last question, because the next two were about learning logs that I already answered. In the UK, we have to provide a report on our child's home education progress and update on a yearly basis. And that date doesn't coincide with the school year of Bridge necessarily. Yeah, my date is at the end of October. I just want to check how you allow for this when you generate reports and documents and timings. I only joined this month and will make entries in September. I want to connect with other UK members also. Yeah. Okay. So we definitely have quite a few families in the UK. They may not be in the Facebook group. We are working on finding a way to create like a clickable or digital map of families. I'm just trying to find a way that doesn't mean I have to manually put everybody in it, or like violate privacy. So it's on the radar. If anybody out there knows how to do something like that, let me know, where you can like add yourself to a map that already exists. That's kind of what we're looking for, so people can choose to be added without someone in our office having to manually do that. And that would help with finding local people. But outside of that, with your question in terms of like any specific documents that you need to generate based on where you live, we will do that for you. It doesn't matter if your timeline matches what our calendar is. We have students all over the world. Everybody's on their own schedule. We get that. The schedule we keep just kind of aligns with the majority of the US, like just encompasses it that way. Like, that's just we have to pick a start and end date. It's not going to align with everybody. And there's no real thing like a start date. You're always learning, but officially for paperwork, we had to pick one. So it's August 1st to July 31st. And it's just the way that the majority of school districts require us to document. It means nothing to you guys. You guys just keep living and learning and doing your own thing, and we'll make sure you get documents when you need them based on your individual calendar. So if you have a date that is outside of like the norm, like you're saying, this person in October, just let us know and we will make a note in your account so that is like flagged for us to do. So, and then if there's any specifics that you have, like any certain things the evaluation has to say, the transcripts need to say, again, that's just information, very personal. You reach out to us through the help desk or email, and just let us know what that date is and, you know, what exactly you need. If you have documents from the school district to send to us that we can reference, we will absolutely do that for you. That's what we're here for. So, okay, I think that's it. That was all the questions that came in. I don't see any in the chat. Thank you for hanging with me. I'm like out of breath. I haven't talked this much in like 2 weeks. So I am going to get this set up for the replay so everybody can watch it. Normally our policy here, or our habit standard, whatever, will be to email everybody that sent in a question with like the timestamp of where your question is. Since this week I kind of combined a lot of the questions that were similar, I don't think we'll do that this week, just because it would be hard to kind of go back and tell other people to watch someone else's question. But that's so you know how we'll do that in the future. And you can expect the routines workshop to be up in the portal today, and those new learning logs. And I'll check on the bridge to bridge schooling. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good day. See you next week.